I am spinning the wheel for a random Google Ads scenario, and my goal is to build a campaign with best practices around it. Starting off hot with legal as the industry type, I'm hoping we can get a budget of at least $100 a day, and of course not, we're at $25 a day. My hope is that we can at least get a conversion goal that's a little bit further up in the funnel. I'm hoping for website traffic, and phone calls is doable. I think we can make that work. Now, the ask, this is always the challenging one. Something simple, use AI. That's gonna work great for us because that's already gonna be baked into so many of the campaigns. Now, the campaign type, I think will be okay as long as we don't get display, and PMAX I think we can work with. So there we have it. Our scenario is gonna be legal at $25 a day, bidding towards the phone call conversion with the ask to use AI on PMAX. Let's dive into it. Okay, so we're not just trying to generate traffic here, we're trying to generate phone calls in a very high cost industry on a very low budget. So the entire system has to be built around filtering out anything that is not high intent. The first thing we're gonna do is take a look at the conversion goal, and this is gonna be our primary lever to control the quality of the traffic on Performance Max. In an ideal world, we'd be able to pass back qualified customer data like paid customer information or a manually qualified lead. But because we're having to work towards phone call conversions in this scenario, we have to get a little creative with how to try to improve the quality of the data. But I do have one idea, and it's specifically around the call duration window. Most presets are around 60 seconds, and I'm gonna increase mine to about 4 minutes. If we have data to suggest in this example that a qualified call on average takes longer than 3.5 minutes to become a customer, 4 minutes should give us enough of a buffer to ensure that any conversions that are coming in are qualified, training the system to only work to replicate those actions moving forward. This is also information we can pass back to the team answering the calls, expressing to them that if you are speaking with someone who is not a qualified customer, do your best to get them off the phone in under 4 minutes. Now, you do have to remember we're only working with $25 a day, and there's a very high possibility we're not going to be able to drive enough call volume to support the 4-minute call duration window. That being said, I still think it's a good starting point, and if we need to work it backwards, we can do that, but I want to give it the best shot possible from the jump. Now that we have our conversion tracking set up, we can actually go in and create the Performance Max campaign. We'll start by pressing create in the top left-hand corner and choosing our campaign objective. After choosing the objective, we'll make sure the conversion goal is aligned with what we're targeting in this mock scenario, which is going to be the phone call conversion. We'll select the campaign type, which is going to be Performance Max, and you can also attach your website's URL. This is going to help act as the final URL or the final landing page for the ad, but it will also direct the headlines, descriptions, and images that are auto-generated in the asset itself. Then we're going to land on the bidding page where we'll have the option to choose the bid strategy type for a Performance Max campaign. With Performance Max, you'll have the ability to choose conversions or conversion value. With such a low budget, in an ideal world, if this was a search campaign, I would start with maximize clicks. But because we're only bidding towards one conversion action, and because we don't yet have any performance data, conversions or max conversions is going to be the appropriate starting point. We'll also set our location targeting, and really important for lead generation, especially when you're bidding towards an action that requires the conversion to be manually statused. In this case, a phone call, someone from sales or reception has to pick up the phone for this to convert. We want to make sure that the ads are only running when the business is actually being operated. So from this case, it's going to be, in this case, it's going to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. if we were bidding towards lead forms, for example, that might actually change how we want to set the ad scheduling, potentially giving us a longer duration for the ads to run even outside of business hours. We do have the option to select certain devices, but this is not going to be a decision we make today. This is something that we can evaluate after we have some initial performance data, and based on what's highest converting, we can refine further. I'm going to breeze through a lot of the asset creation part because this should be relatively straightforward. We want to make sure that the copy is high impact and high relevancy to the site itself and directly calls to the services that we're targeting. Now, with Performance Max only running at $25 a day, we want to be really careful not to spread our budget too thin. So for this legal business, even though they might offer 5, 6, maybe even 7 different services, we're going to only start with one asset group targeting 1 or 2 services. This is going to help remove a lot of the variabilities and force more click volume to a smaller subset of queries, copy variations, images, etc. That should help expedite our learning period. And then once we have meaningful performance data, we can expand as necessary. But this is going to be one of the best ways to not waste budget initially by ensuring that there's not too much for the campaign to test into. Once we have the headlines, descriptions, and images all applied to the asset group, we can also apply the search themes. If this was a search campaign, think about these as the keywords. It helps the campaign understand what types of queries this ad might make the most sense to show up for. This is something a lot of people overlook, but making sure you have built out search themes at the asset group level, specifically relating to what you're wanting to target, that can really help, especially initially, drive better performance. Immediately below the search theme, you'll also see the option to include audience signals. This could be people who have engaged with a YouTube channel, for example, if you have previous history of site engagement. These are all going to be signals that you can leverage to make sure the campaign gets a better jump start. Once it starts driving consistent click and conversion volume, it will rely on those signals much less and start to prioritize whatever signals are leading to conversions. But this is a great way to help jumpstart the campaign if you have any meaningful audience signals to apply. You can also choose things like in-market affinity audiences or demographic types, pre-built segments, essentially, that Google will provide you that relate to the business or the service that you're targeting. We'll then go ahead and set the budget, and with that, we have the base foundation for the Performance Max campaign built out, and we can go ahead and get it published. Once the campaign is published, and this is a big if we have enough conversion data, now we can start to really dive into the performance structure and make the necessary optimizations for this to be a sustainable initiative for the business. One thing I like to look at is the asset group performance. We can evaluate the headlines, descriptions, images, and more all in this one page and get a sense of what is working versus what is not. Anything that's not driving meaningful click volume or has click-through rates or conversions below the median, feel free to make adjustments on those and swap them out for new things. We can also look at the search terms and understand what types of queries are we getting, and do we need to add in any negative keyword structures to reduce the amount of maybe subpar queries that we might be seeing. At this point, we should also have enough performance data to understand if it makes sense to expand our overall asset group structure. This would be the time where we can create new service-specific asset groups to try and expand what specifically we're targeting. Now, this is an AI-first campaign, and when we published it, there's a lot of AI-first features that are automatically turned on. At this point, if we have enough performance data, we can make a decision to better understand if final URL expansion, image enhancement, text customization are all features that are working for or against us. My general belief is that if we're bidding towards a qualified conversion goal, These are features that will work well for your business, but if we're seeing low quality traffic come in or bidding towards stages in the customer funnel that are not qualified, we should avoid these. This is a new series that I'm trying where I prompt myself with randomized Google Ads scenarios and do my best to solve them. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable, please follow along for more. Also, as this is a new channel, please feel free to comment with any feedback or video suggestions. My goal would be to reply to as many as I can.